Like, now that's insanity. Like, even for this franchise, that was ridiculous. You just earned yourself a dance with the devil, boy. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be finally ranking the Fast and the Furious movies. I reviewed Fast X like a month ago. And I was supposed to rank this franchise, but y'all know I am just not organized. I just be going, I don't know what I be doing, but we're here now. We are here and we are ranking all of the movies in the Fast and the Furious franchise. I know that this is a franchise that gets a lot of flack, but it is a franchise that I thoroughly enjoy. Now, some of the criticism don't make sense to me because number one, they literally have some kind of scene with street racing in every single solitary film, and movies like change. Like a franchise, the movies can change over time. I mean, the first Mission Impossible versus like Ghost Protocol, vastly different. So, you know, I don't get the critique. I like this franchise. And if you do too, let's get on right into it and let's rank these incredible movies. I just feel like there is nothing wrong with the franchise evolving or going bigger. Yes, the Fast franchise ended up getting really ridiculous and over the top and unrealistic, but it's fun and badass, and a lot of the stunts are just really cool. So let's get right into it. Coming in at number 11, The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. Now, even though I have been a fan of this franchise from the very beginning, I remember watching it way back in the day. I was like a preteen or something, or a teenager. I have only just now watched Tokyo Drift in preparation for this video. At the time Tokyo Drift was released, I don't know, I just had no desire to watch it. I wasn't really a fan of Bow Wow. The trailers and marketing didn't really pull me in. I don't know, I just didn't care. Years passed and I just never cared, child. Like, I just never got around to watching it. And watching now Tokyo Drift, it has a lot that just doesn't work for me. First of all, I hate watching, look, if you know my channel, you know what I'm finna say. I hate watching anything with high school or teenagers, like, period. Like, that is just the first negative for me. First of all, the movie opens with like dumb jocks, airhead pretty girl dating the jerk. So typical. When they go like to race and a girl like tosses her bra, I don't know, it was just so lame, and I'm just like, oh my god, do I have to sit through this? Yo, I started this movie just rolling my eyes. The dumb jock like runs up on the lead kid in the movie, and he's like, you talking to my girl. Y'all, I couldn't. I was just like, oh my god, like, I was dying. Then we get to the main story, and honestly, it really don't get much better. There is a romantic narrative that just kind of irked my nerves, that I really didn't care for. The girl that our lead has a crush on, y'all, I really couldn't stand that girl. She was so annoying to me, and it felt like the lead was kind of being an idiot with everything he was doing, fooling around with this girl. I mean, when you keep getting threatened and beat up, child, leave the girl alone. I was so just disinterested in the love triangle story. I felt like, y'all know in Triple X when Sam Jackson is like, there's always a girl. That is exactly how I felt watching this movie. I was also annoyed because it ain't no way none of them actors like is in high school. Like, nobody looked like they. We could have just did college age kids. Like, if we was gonna just like do this. I mean, maybe Bow Wow looked like he in high school, but that's about it. Now, one thing this movie does have going for it in a major way are the car race scenes and the car chase scenes. I actually feel like the Tokyo backdrop with the like literally electrifying, like, I'm trying to use that word, like car race sequences, it just makes every car scene in Tokyo Drift miles better than the original Fast and the Furious movie, in my opinion. Really, a few of the like other like earlier Fast films as well. Just the whole, I mean, Tokyo, it just looks amazing. But the story and characters are just so freaking weak that it causes Tokyo Drift to land at the bottom for me. But man, they really did they ish. Like the show that, like with the racing and stuff, the showdown race at the end is one of my favorite in the entire franchise. The race and then like the crash that kills Han. If I could just get the action without the weak story, this would be a much more enjoyable film. I do not see myself ever rewatching this. I mean, just no rewatch value for me personally. Coming in at number 10, Fast and Furious. Now, I haven't watched this movie since I saw it in theaters years ago. I do remember really loving this movie, but now I'm not sure. Maybe it just ain't aged well. But yeah, rewatching this recently, it was honestly a struggle for me to get through. I just could not believe it. Like I mean, it was a struggle. I was like pretty damn near bored for a good portion of this movie. The villain was fine, nothing to write home about, and the reveal of the true villain identity at the end was painfully obvious. I do like where we find Brian in this movie. The third act was, for me, the most enjoyable of like the entire runtime. I really like, you know, the meetup, the car chase through the tunnel sequence, even though I could critique like how like it looked, how it was shot in those tunnels. It was still fun, and I like actually got some enjoyment out of it. You know what? The plot isn't the worst. It's just really familiar. There just isn't anything here that we haven't seen. And yeah, granted, you could argue that about a bulk of this franchise, plot wise, but I don't know. I was just like, it just didn't keep my attention. I was insanely bored. I really struggled to finish the movie, but it just wasn't very fun. This was the big return of the franchise, and it really, I think, kick-started the success of like this never-ending sequels. But unfortunately, though, this is one of those movies that, while I enjoyed it at the time of its release, it ultimately just on rewatch years later seemed to have lost a bulk of its appeal and magic. Now, I will say, having never seen Tokyo Drift back in the day, now because I was shocked, like when I just saw Tokyo, I was like, wait, Han died? Now when I'm watching this, I found it really odd that Han like was killed in Tokyo, but then alive in the next film. Now, they do try to explain it away by telling the audience that like those events haven't happened yet. Like Han is getting to Tokyo, but he hasn't gotten there yet. But I was just like, wait, what? But you know what? Plausible, acceptable, whatever. Coming in at number 9, The Fast and the Furious, the movie that started all this off. I was definitely on the Fast and Furious train from the beginning, like I said. And even though it is still a very solid movie, very enjoyable, it isn't as fun as I remember. Like, mainly though because it feels so dated, y'all. It was so cheesy. I haven't watched this in 100 years. Y'all, the crowd, the scene when Vin Diesel is like talking to Paul Walker when he's smiling after the race and the crowd is like, ooh, like it's so cheesy, it's so dated, it's so lame. I love the original Fast and Furious. Like there's a nostalgia there. I have a love for it, but it does honestly feel like kind of a sore thumb in the franchise, seeing like where we've gone. But like I said, still a very solid movie, very enjoyable. Coming in at number 8, Hobbs and Shaw. I enjoy the characters of Hobbs and okay, let's try that again. Can I talk? I enjoy the character of Hobbs and Shaw within the franchise, but this movie is a little meh. We have Ryan Reynolds playing the same character that Ryan Reynolds always plays. Give giving us the same personality Ryan Reynolds always gives us. We did not need Kevin Hart. For one, I just don't enjoy him. But for two, within the story, it felt unnecessary. The movie is way too long. It just didn't keep my attention the entire time. Honestly, this just felt like one big ego stroking venture. Apparently The Rock can like pull a helicopter, like whatever. Look, Hobbs, I'm not gonna hold you, okay? This is the Fast and Furious universe, and look, child, I enjoyed the girl from Mission Impossible who played Jason Statham's sister. We got some good fights and some good action, some good stunts. This is a very typical, we hate each other, but we are forced to team up and work together. And then, oh, look, now we actually respect and like each other scenario. Like, extremely typical. The dialogue killed this movie for me. The humor was a complete miss. It felt like it was written like by a teenage boy. I just couldn't. Idris Elba's character was a highlight for me, but he was more Black Terminator and less Black Superman. Number 7, Fast 9, The Fast Saga. I know folks give this movie a lot of crap. And Fast and the Furious, look, it's absurd, okay? Luda and Tyrese going to space was completely ridiculous. And like, even look, child, I am the queen of suspending some damn belief when it comes to watching movies. But even I will admit that they went way too far with that one. Like, come on now, child. Like, y'all knew y'all was doing too much with that. But overall, I actually really enjoyed this one. I find it odd that we're all supposed to be family and known each other for years, but like, you never told me you had a brother, but whatever. As always, Tyrese's character Roman is a highlight. I love the wooden bridge stunt. They need to like make one of these sequels where like crash test dummies go after this Fast family to learn their secrets, because I'm talking about, I got scars still on me from when I was like a little tomboy at 10 years old. Why this crew don't ever have no scars, don't ever get hurt? Like, it do start to get a little, but nonetheless, the backstory feels redundant because we already got the origin story in the first movie. We already know about Dom's dad. We already know about Dom beating the guy half to death. I couldn't stand the kid playing young Dominique. All those flashback scenes were just annoying for me. John Cena is a terrible actor. I want to say this is my first time seeing him in a movie, if I'm remembering correctly. But he was fine. I loved the girl fight in Tokyo. Hated the camera work a bit though. The famous cameos in this franchise, they really do start to annoy me. Cardi B, Iggy Azalea was in one. Like, can we just please stop? It would have been nice if they didn't make the double cross with Charlize Theron so glaringly obvious. But as always, the action was really great. I find the action and the stunt work in this franchise to really be pretty consistent, like pretty freaking good. A highlight for me though with this one was the big car chase, the rescuing the Asian girl sequence, Han killing old boy with like the exploding parachute. That was so freaking good. And speaking of Han, there is no real explanation for why Han is still alive. Because now we're at the events after Tokyo Drift. They just want him here, so he's here. Even the whole thing of they tried to throw into this one, like his girlfriend was working with Mr. Nobody, and the child was just like, whatever. Y'all making this ish up as you go along, and I'ma just buy it, okay? Like, I don't buy it, but I'ma just buy it because I like y'all. Playing Charlize Theron in a box for the majority of the movie was such a waste and disservice. John Cena suddenly, like his character, the brother, like suddenly not being a villain had no real like true rhyme or reason. I also don't care for how they write Brian out. Mia says in like Fast 5, I think it was, that Dom and Brian are stronger together. And I'm just saying like, okay, so what happened to that? Like, I mean, we know in real life why Brian's character isn't here, but within the movie, it's kind of a sore thumb for me. Coming in at number 6 is Fast X. While I was not the biggest fan of Jason Momoa's character here, of his villain, overall though, I thoroughly like really enjoyed this one. Great action and stunts as always. And I also feel like we kind of got a much better story than we normally get. It's a story of revenge, and though it does get convoluted, and I personally didn't enjoy the characters being scattered around and how they was cutting from each little story. For my full thoughts though on Fast X, make sure you check out the full video. I will link the card and put it in the description box. Coming in at number 5, The Fate of the Furious. I am in general just motherfreaking obsessed with Charlize Theron, and she does not disappoint here. She is definitely a highlight. I enjoy her as a villain, but why no action sequences with Charlize Theron? Like, that was irking my nerves. I'm not sure who made that decision, but it was a bad one. I really enjoyed the prison break sequence, even though Hobbs breaking up, y'all, that didn't make no sense. Him, when he was breaking out, like, oh, I'm gonna break out because I gotta stop you from breaking out, it was stupid. The zombie car sequence, loved it. Though, if you can control all the cars, why not just control the one car you want? But whatever, it was a fly sequence. Also, Statham on the plane rescuing Dom's baby, love that sequence. Now, there is a lot I enjoy with this one, a lot, but child, a lot goes wrong. The plot, first of all, but we don't expect much from the plots in these movies. I feel like they need to just give us like just a simple little narrative, like just it could be generic, but this was, I was like, come on now, child. But having Dom be able to set up an entire scheme, pulling in the 2 Hispanic guys, pulling in Helen Mirren, but he can't get word to his family to back off and that he actually not evil, like that didn't make any sense. Having Letty and Dom discuss kids for the first time right before the reveal that Dom has a baby, like come on now, child. And speaking of, the thing with this is the timing seems really sketch for me. We saw Elena in Fast 7 and she wasn't pregnant. The Rock didn't know she had a baby and they was working together. So I'm confused on the timeline of these events. Jason Statham killed Han. His character killed Han, but we just work with him because Mr. Nobody say work with him. Like that ain't make no sense. Hobbs coaching his daughter's team was unbearably cringe. The story is just really lacking. The dialogue is pretty bad, but we get a formidable villain, exciting action. Again, Tyrese's Roman is a highlight here. He was so hilarious. Everything they get right in this movie is just so, like the bar is so high with the entertainment factor for me that it's enough for me to overlook the things that are kind of nonsensical or the things that they get wrong here. Now we are getting to the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme when it comes to the Fast franchise. We are hitting the top 4 movies. Coming in at number 4, Too Fast, Too Furious. Sometimes I wonder if I should love this movie as much as I do, because baby, look, I love this movie. Like this is one, I haven't rewatched some of the old ones, but I have rewatched Too Fast. I love this movie. Too Fast, Too Furious gives us the introduction of Roman and Tej. We get a great villain. I just love that actor. Strong racing scenes, good story, but it is the dynamic of Tyrese and Paul Walker's Roman and Brian that really holds this movie up over time for me. They have the best chemistry, the banter, the humor with the two of them. It is just so entertaining. It's believable. I actually feel like they did a disservice when they move in the franchise, putting the focal on Dom and Brian's relationship, which we still need that, but they steered so far away from the Brian and Roman relationship, and I feel like we could have used that magic from this continuing on in the franchise. Now, just like I said with the Fast and the Furious, this mug is cheesy. It is definitely a movie of its time. The stuff they have old girl like yelling when she in the car alone, it was so cringe. Those early Fast movies just have a certain cheesiness to them, but while some age well, some don't. And for me, it ages well here with Too Fast, Too Furious. I feel like, is this the last movie they made that was grounded? Was it Too Fast? Too Fast, Too Furious is arguably one of the best movies just of the early 2000s period. For me, it is definitely top tier in this franchise. Also, I feel like, baby, look, Tyrese don't get enough acknowledgement and credit for how good of an actor he is. Like, he was holding his own in this movie. The charisma, the screen presence he has, I feel like it would have been a lesser film with different casting. Coming in at number 3 is Furious 7. You just earned yourself a dance with the devil, boy. The introduction of Jason Statham is so badass. I love that scene. Love him. The showdown with Shaw and Hobbs was amazing. The parachute car sequence, the mission to rescue Masandi for Kurt Russell, driving through the dang like buildings in Dubai. Look, it ain't made no sense, but it was fly. Dom like flying his car into a dang plane. Brian fighting with the Asian guy in like that armored truck, even though the Asian guy could have easily like just pushed Brian off and killed him instead of fighting, but whatever. The chick fight was so freaking good. The shootout scene when we go get Shaw, Brian's rematch with the Asian guy towards the end. Y'all, this movie, I'm talking about, y'all, the thing about street fights, the street always wins. Y'all, I can't with this movie. It's so good. Y'all, Brian running along that armored bus as it's falling over the goddamn cliff, then grabbing like hold of the tail end of Lady's car. That ish was fire. I don't care. Like, I love that scene. Narrative wise, I feel like the franchise should have ended here. It would have made the most sense as far as the story. Now, as much as I love this movie, and look, child, I do, there are still some negative here. Some of the humor just didn't hit for me, particularly concerning the Rock character, his daughter, etc. Some of the camera work irks me during the fight scenes. I didn't care for the introduction of Masandi. She didn't need to be added to like the core crew. She is pretty dull for me. I really could care less about her character. The character is very lackluster and really doesn't add anything in my opinion. Love Demon Hensu. Love him. And he did the best he could with what he was given here. But again, I just feel like his character felt very, not just underutilized, but very generic. I mean, I enjoyed him because I enjoyed the actor, and it wasn't terrible, but he was a very just forgettable villain. And I'm not the biggest fan of adding in the whole thread of the secret agency and Mr. Nobody. I do enjoy the Mr. Nobody character, but I'm just not the biggest fan of throwing in the secret government agency. But the biggest issue for me is stopping CPR to give a heartfelt speech instead. Like, now that's insanity. Like, even for this franchise, that was ridiculous. Coming in at number 2 is Fast 5. Arguably, many fans would say that this is the top of the Fast franchise, and undeniably, it is one of the best action movies of all time. Now, in my opinion, this is when the franchise started to really hit like that unbelievable like realm. But child, it was badass. The cliff stunt with Brian and Dom was complete insanity. Fun one-liners, the big chase scene with the safes, the bridge scene that leads to Hobbs versus Dom. Look, my testosterone jumped watching that damn fight. That, y'all. Oh, that fight. And it's not even just like the fight itself, which is freaking badass, but the build up and tension that was growing between those characters leading up to the showdown was so good. I really have no negative critiques for this one. Like, I got nothing. It is just an all around very solid, above average action movie. Love the heist aspect that is introduced in this one. That is when they really get it right for me. Love the introduction of Hobbs. He was a great character to add in here. But I gotta say, I wanted to see Hobbs get beat the hell down because of course I was rooting for our family, but also he had like this cocky, pompous, smug attitude, which I feel like was toned down later in the franchise, but it irked me. But I mean, look, Hobbs thinks he, hot shit. He think he wider. That's pretty consistent throughout the franchise anytime we see his character. Shooting old boy on the bridge always just kind of didn't make any sense to me because like you law enforcement and that's murder, but whatever. It does not get much more like high octane than Fast 5. Or wait, we're only at number 2, so maybe it does. As much as I ride hard for Fast 5, the god of the Fast and Furious franchise for me, coming in at number 1 is Fast 6. I feel like as far as the action, they just really elevated and took it up a notch from Fast 5. It's exciting, but not completely outlandish. So many standout moments. Letty versus Gina Carano, Tyrese and Han versus the Asian guy. I love that fight. The little comedic edge they add to it. The freaking tank sequence. Tyrese flying across to like Paul Walker car. Vin Diesel and Michelle flying through the damn air. That entire plane sequence, I thought it was just wild and crazy. I loved it. Vin Diesel using his own freaking skull as a weapon to beat old boy down. The return of Letty. And I remember being so hyped for this because at the same time, Michelle was making her return in the Resident Evil franchise. And I just always liked her. I loved her character. It was fun to see her return. Vin Diesel and The Rock tag teaming old boy in that big fight on the plane. I don't care if the plane was taking off for like 45 minutes and it was on the longest runway in the history of the world. That sequence is fire. The visual of Vin Diesel driving out that exploding plane was amazing. We get a really great villain here with Owen Shaw. He feel like ruthless as hell. Braga wasn't the best, so I didn't really feel like it was necessary for him to make a big return. That wasn't like a character that I felt like we needed to bring back. However, it worked in just fine. Brian in jail fighting Braga and his goons was really good. That was a highlight scene for me. Look, Letty being alive don't really make no sense, but look, we know what universe we in, we know what franchise this is, so it's fine. Shaw keeping her alive and not, when he sent to kill her, it don't make no sense, but again, look, it's fine. It is just fine. We gonna just go with it, because we gonna go with it. This movie for me, is it's the height. It's the height of this franchise and what they are able to achieve. They also give us a little credit scene at the end to finally tie in Han dying in the crash in Tokyo and introducing Jason Statham as Shaw. That was so good. Y'all, the brother is Owen Shaw, but I feel like they only refer to Jason Statham's character as Shaw, like no first name. And I thought I was crazy and just not remembering right. But before doing this video, I checked IMDb, and yeah, his character is just named Shaw. Like, why he don't have a first name like his brother? I know a ton of people talk down on this franchise, but I do feel like this is a very solid, consistent, and entertaining franchise. And it is a big deal for your franchise to still be successful after like 22 freaking years. Put some respect on the Fast and Furious name. Yeah, it gets outlandish and even completely asinine at moments, but I love all the stuff that they try to achieve and end up achieving. And with the action, maybe I'm just, that kind of moviegoer, but I love how insane things get with their little like missions and the action and everything that the characters are able to do. I'm fine with their plot armor. Like I'm fine. It reminds me of like a bargain brand Mission Impossible, but in like a good way. You like the bargain brand that you like. And I am completely entertained by this franchise. Let me know in the comments, how would you rank the movies in the Fast franchise? And make sure you check out my video on the new Fast X. As always, thank you so much for supporting the content. I'll see you in the next one.